Hey, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you, with Justin. We are ready to dive deep into values and integrity. Justin, how are you?
I'm awesome. I just got to play with the kids and bounce around. It was a blast.
Yeah, that's so cool. I heard it's much warmer in California than it is here.
Viciously warmer, yeah.
It's just way warmer.
Still in the
So
90s
it's in the 90s. Oh my, yesterday.
yesterday, yeah.
Crazy. Well, I'm in my winter vest here because it's much chillier here, but it's been like absolutely beautiful. So we've been outside quite a bit today.
Fires and
So,
cocoa?
uh, cocoa's not my favorite, but yeah, we did make, actually, we made fresh cookies last night, chocolate chip cookies, and they turned out so
Yes,
good.
those
We
are
don't
my
make
favorite.
very often. They're your favorite? I
I love
actually was
cookies.
limited on the chocolate chips, so I threw in some white chocolate in addition, and that was a nice mix.
Awesome.
So today we are diving into day one of our 5-day challenge, of our 3-day challenge. I'm so excited to like really start tackling mindset shifting. And we picked the theme for this week as integrity. And I think this is so fundamental because not only does obviously integrity impact how you show up in life, but it actually truly connects the dots from whether your mind shift is actually following through to your actions and your behaviors. So, as a leader, I think everyone can relate to people who say one thing, but then actually don't follow through or continue to do that thing. And so, this is where, like, really that full step through integrity makes a difference. So, Justin, let's dive in and talk about for a minute, like how the process for you initially with identifying what your key values are that ultimately we roll out in life. So, what did that look like for you?
So for me, the my core values, as I was looking at these, what I like to do is look at just a giant like list of words, and I take this list and I go through and just highlight, just make any mark on anything that just resonates with me to any degree. And then I let that really feed my excitement, enthusiasm, and creativity. And I start adding to it. I write in the margins, I put in there because I mean, the words are great, but my words always resonate better. And I always encourage people to do that too, of to take what you see and just build on it. And if you're doing this with a team, this really helps the team kind of really own the words because they came up with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that you talked about how it resonates with you and that feeling that like it's deep inside, because that's what really makes a difference for your values. If you're not feeling it, then that's not a value that you're going to commit to and live by.
Yeah, 100%.
So you mentioned team. Have you done this with your team before?
I have. I found it was really instrumental in the team that I was looking to turn around. That was one of the first things I wanted to do was just make sure we all got on the same page. We tried a number of different carrots in front of them, tried different ways to entice them into things and to make it seem more real when we were working together. But when I did the value exercise, I actually did it with each of us individually and had us go through and for each of my teammates led them through the process. And what we discovered was it became easier for me as a leader to connect the things that they're doing to the values that they had stated. So one person, let's say valued family, but was capped out on vacation. It's like, okay, you need to take a week off because you said your your values are family. Like, let's get you home. Let's get you with your family,
That's
stuff
a
like that.
revolutionary concept for work to suggest taking vacation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's fantastic, though.
And then, be able to link back other things to it. Specific projects, somebody wanted, like one of my keywords is mastery, and somebody else was something similar, and they really wanted to be excellent and to grow. And so I would position like new and boundary expanding projects for that person. And with like, here's the way that we're going to do this. And because they went through the exercise, it was something that they came up with. Then if I can position these things to them in such a way, it became a much more exciting for them to take on some of these projects and this extra work.
Absolutely.
It was building them, it was building their values.
Yeah. I love that approach because ultimately, as a leader, you want to connect with that person and inspire them. But also, obviously, in a work setting, you have specific goals. So if you're able to help that person grow in a way that they are committed to, in addition to meeting your work goals, then that's like the best possible scenario for everyone. And it makes it so much more fulfilling for everyone.
Yeah, and for the people who just really struggle on Mondays to get into work, to motivate themselves, even to get out of bed, knowing what awaits them, to make that mental shift into how the things that they're doing directly translate to their life and to the things that they want to get out of life. That was a pretty substantial shift for them, and it was really interesting as a leader to be watching this shift real time as it was happening.
It's probably interesting to see those growing pains in some ways, but then also ultimately the growth of the team, which is what you want long term.
Yeah, yeah.
So for doing, how many, like identifying your values, how many words did you start with before you were able to narrow it down fully? Do you have an idea?
I don't know, probably upwards of 30 to 50. It was just a lot.
30 to 50 words that you highlighted? Yeah.
Yeah, I really think it's like brainstorming. Like you really want to see the things that resonate with you. And I like the highlighter technique. What I would often do is do like multiple colors of highlighter. So I could go through, make multiple passes, and then those things just really stood out. And then all the black and white just went to the background. So if there was something that didn't resonate with me, didn't trigger me, didn't make me excited, I wanted to get rid of that and then stick with the things that incited me and empowered me, and then focus on the things that really jazzed me the most.
Yeah. For me, generally, when I start off, it's usually somewhere between 10 and 20 words that stand out to me. I'm really surprised I'm slightly less enthusiastic than you in this one area. But for me today, to narrow it down, because actually my values, I have a list of values, and I had never really narrowed it down to 3, as in like as with what we're doing for this specific activity. And so actually it was really a tug and pull for me. Like I was like, oh my gosh, which one is actually my third? Like family was my number 1. So that was like a no-brainer. But then 2 and 3 for me, continuous growth, that's like a foundation of my life. So that wasn't too hard for me to identify that. But then third, I have a list of about 10 others that aren't my, they're still in my top core values, and I write about them regularly. I journal about my values. I actually set some goals around my values sometimes. Obviously, we're talking today about scheduling, like aligning your schedule with your value system. So I have somewhere between 5 and 10 other ones that I'm really regularly like going back to and writing about and including in my affirmations. But that third one today, I decided on creativity, and it actually, that one encompasses several others for me that are still important. For example, in my life, resilience and reinvention are really fundamental to me at this particular point in my life, and values for me for like redefining where I go and getting excited about new ventures, which is a big part of my life right now. And when I add the creativity factor, even though that that was one of my words originally, to me that I can include resilience and reinvention and a couple other of my less my lower down traits into creativity. So I felt like that's kind of a neat thing to share, because I think probably a lot of our group today, if they're going through these values and trying to narrow it down, it's really hard to pick the top 3. So
no, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't stick to a particular number. So for mine, when I did it, it came out to 5, and the person that I was doing it with, the exercise I think was for 5, and so I was on point. But when we did it as a family, we came up with 3, and I've seen businesses do it and they come up with like 10. So I think
Yeah.
it's more like where does it feel natural for the environment, and where does everybody feel like it's included and bought into it, and like what just feels the best.
What
There's
feels
no,
right for you.
yeah,
Absolutely.
no judgment. There's no rules and regulations on value limits.
So the reason that I fixed it to 3 for this particular challenge to identify those top 3 is really that integrity piece and connecting it back to your
Hmm.
actions. So the first step in our actions today was to identify those top 3 values. But then the second step is the key step for making sure that you're aligned moving forwards. So identifying whether or not those 3 values show up in your schedule over the next 3 days.
Hmm.
And if they don't, then it's a perfect opportunity to go ahead and rebalance, to shift things around, and actually have your schedule reflect what you say your priorities are. Now, kind of like Justin was saying, there's no defined rules in life. This is for you, and this is for you to show up for yourself and your family and your commitments. But 3 is a pretty manageable number to get into your schedule over 3 days. So I really wanted to give something, as long as you're able to narrow that list down to your core values, give you the opportunity to grow and actually say, am I following through with what I'm saying that is most important to me? So Justin, can you talk for a minute about your family's values? And then how will that, I'd love to hear how you created that as a family, but then how will that look as part of your schedule and your plan for your family moving forward?
So our family values are adventure, impact, and joy. And so we have those on a big board, and they're right above the dinner table so we can see it every day. And the adventure is we're constantly looking for, and working towards the space where we can do more traveling. And unfortunately, in the last year, that's kind of gone away, but we've still been trying to find ways that we can fit adventure into our lives. So we took a Monday off, and we all went to the beach the other day, and just like kind of as the summer is winding down, and we had the beach completely to ourselves. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Finding things like that, little things we can do, go for walks, like try to do things together and just be together with each other. And then joy, just trying to make sure that we stick on that joy side. That I'm sometimes get very head down, and so it's great to have reminders out there. And my wife, of course, is really good at reminding me that I need to be on the happier side of the coin.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet Vivian is really good at it too.
She flip flops.
People love the life of a 5-year-old, 6-year-old.
Yeah, 5, yeah.
5-year-old.
But yeah, so it was really interesting for us. The values were a part of an exercise my wife and I did together with a marriage coach prior to getting married. So we sat down, did our visions, we did our visions each, and then they sent us out to lunch to take those 2 and merge it together. And that was a really interesting conversation. But I think by doing that gave us a lot of tools of like, hey, we're built, we each have an individuality, but we're building this together. And I think the values do that same of like having things in that we're stating that's us, but an individuality, but also as a group.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Nick and I have done iterations of this activity several times, and we've taken our values and turned them into mission statements.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've done 2 officially, one right before we got married, as you mentioned, kind of. And then also we did a new one about a year and a half ago, right as we were embarking on our adventures. So if you're not familiar with our past, for anybody who's listening, for my family, we traveled the country for 10 months in an RV and Airbnbs. So as we sold our home and started that adventure, we put together this mission statement that was founded in our values as a couple and as a family, and went ahead and tried our hardest to live by it as we traveled the country. And it was interesting, though. I was talking to Justin earlier about how values have actually really, how re-identifying values have been really instrumental in my life after this adventure. As my family traveled the country, there were quite a few things that we chose that we were letting go of from California. For me, there was a business that I'd been working really hard for a while in California, and that was put on hold for us to travel and then also ultimately relocate. And friends and community and, just the regular routine. And it actually shook me pretty hard because I felt like I had lost my foundation. Even though I was so excited about our adventures and we created new memories and it was amazing for our family, there were some things that were instrumental to who I was as a person that were shaken up. So earlier this year, I embarked on a really big journey to re-identify my values and ultimately identify what I was going to stand for in life in this next phase moving forward. So it's a really neat opportunity for starting fresh and starting from a place where you truly believe in what you're doing. And as a leader, I love that this is the foundation for you to connect your why to why you show up in life, why you're showing up for people, why you're inspiring others in the way that you do. And this is obviously a huge part of leveling up in your life, is how are you going to really use that foundation to take yourself to the next level and really inspire others through it.
Yeah, so. And you had a really great point there in that values change over time, right? So that it's totally fair to look at it later and be completely okay with making a shift. I know actually a shift of mine was going from efficient to realizing that efficient wasn't the word. It wasn't a word that made sense, that I wanted to be effective. And so making that mindset shift really impacted me. And that's one of the reasons I'm here today is because yeah. I realized that there was a significant difference between being efficient and being effective. So sometimes having it wrong or being misaligned and then coming back to alignment is very monumental.
Well, and that's the neat thing, is when you have that word that resonates and connects for you, all of a sudden you feel it inside. And that's what makes a difference in moving forward and knowing that you're truly supporting what you say you're supporting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, the place where this can show up a lot, we're talking about interpersonal, but when we take it to the business level, to the team level, to the organization level, this becomes really handy when we're talking to candidates and we're bringing people in. How do we know this is going to be a culture shift? With the values first, we're going to find people that are just like, they see it and they're like, wow, this is really important to me too. And if you find a candidate that's also as excited about your values as you are, or maybe more, that's a pretty good sign, that feels, usually feels pretty good. If you find a candidate that maybe sees something and starts asking questions and, maybe you get the feeling that their values aren't in line, also a very good sign, but it saves a lot of time.
It's a great flag as a, foundational level, because I think a lot of times through that interview process, it's really hard to identify what will help your team progress forward rather than just the actions, because it's pretty easy to identify someone's competency from the perspective of task execution, but creating momentum with your team is so much more than that. So I think that's such an important item to really consider as you're doing the interview process.
Yeah, and people can grow easily in the aptitude level. They can perform a task better and learn that very quickly. But making those mindset shifts, that's an internal thing. That's very difficult to do. So it's much easier to find somebody that has that. Another way we can do that is in the interview questions themselves. If, let's say, your core value is integrity, You can ask about when was the last time you had a really hard decision to make, and how did you choose to move forward, and to see how their decision-making process revolves around it. Was it, was there a conflict between what they said and what they could do? And, maybe it's they missed an appointment and they had to figure out how to navigate that. But just to pepper those in so you can get a feeling of, are they representing the values that they're talking about?
Yep. You learn so much more from a question like that. And it's really telling for how that individual will fit within your organization, especially with remote work right now. It's honestly even more important than previously. It's very important, obviously, to get the tasks there, but to have someone who's going to go above and beyond and align with the values that your company has or your team has, that's going to actually make the difference of the cohesion, which is so much harder to mitigate in this particular situation right now. So,
and then from there to take it to say, how are you exemplifying your values in, as a personal level, in a team level, at a company level, just to make sure that if you set a company value of, family, but there's no time off, then that's a misalignment. And, if you can't go to your kid's soccer game, there might be a misalignment there. So to be able to make sure that we're all exemplifying our values, and then have really clear situations of looking at when people are not exemplifying those values, like seeing, is there something wrong, see if there's a coaching opportunity or something to bring somebody back and help them out.
Absolutely. So we only have a couple minutes left. So I actually want to touch on, do you, Justin, have any advice for someone who's identified their values and then they look at their schedule and they're like, wow, these values aren't showing up? Like, it's a hard step to go ahead and change some things that you already had planned or create space when you're not used to doing that. Mm-hmm. Any advice for that?
Yeah, obviously, if you're looking back at your last week, there's no way that you can make that shift in last week. It's already gone, it's already done, but we can learn from it, and we can look forward at next week. And if next week is already booked, the week after that, just start time blocking into Outlook, into your Google Calendar, those times and those moments. And sometimes it creates a difficult conversation, and you might have to step out of your comfort zone a little bit to tell people. I know I did when I said I have to leave at 4:30. I pick up my kids, and it's family time between 4:30 and 6. And so they know that I can take something after 6. If it was important, I can hop back on and do something. But between 4:30 and 6 is me and my family. So just setting those boundaries and enforcing them. And you don't have to do like every day. I mean, don't go swinging too far. Just do something that's easy and measurable, and set up one day or one hour, one half hour. If you're one of your goals is mastery, take half an hour on a lunch next week and start reading a book that's going to help you get to a better level of where you're at. If one of your values is creativity, maybe take a sketchbook out and sit under a tree, as long as it's not raining or snowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you don't have to take huge. We're definitely not asking you and advocating to take a massive shift in a week. It's just, that's not how it works. But by starting to season your weeks with these things first is a great way to build it. And then it's one of those things like any other habit. Once you start doing it, it becomes infinitely easier.
Yeah. You only have a slight curve to get to the point where it levels off. Actually, I loved how earlier today on the video that we posted this morning, Justin, you responded that family is one of your top priorities. And you had found previously that you were doing a lot for your family, but not with your family. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really a key detail there, is how is your time showing up? So it's not just whether or not you're spending time for that goal, but is it in the way that you want it to be? So obviously, there's so many people who do so many things for their family members. But if there's actually not that connection, then that might not be what their goal is. And
Mm.
so are you showing up in the way that you're really wanting to? And speaking of only a couple minutes, sometimes I look back on the day with my kids and I'm like, wow, I did so many things for them, but I really didn't feel like I connected that well with my oldest, or, I missed this opportunity that I could have done XYZ with my youngest. And so for me, I'll look out, to the next week or the next 2 weeks and put on my calendar something like 15-minute board game time, which isn't a lot of time at all, but it's a way that I know that I'm not distracted. I'm fully immersed in that interaction. And then that usually leads to opening up opportunities for discussion or engagement in a different way, and starting off on a different foot than if I just jump right into whatever the other thing was. So yeah, sometimes I need a little reminder. I actually love that my oldest is, if I put something on the calendar, we have a calendar on our refrigerator. If I put something up there, then she notices it and she gets really excited about it. So we'll both be looking forward to that together. And it's something that we really enjoy. So that's, if you have kids or, team members that you are trying to share those values with, if you actually make it visible, and that's the key thing. If you make it visible so that all the people involved can be a part of it, or even come up with ideas for it. So for example, like with that board game, I don't have to be the one deciding the game. I just put it on the calendar and then we all come up with different ideas for how we execute that. So It makes a big difference long-term.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that really worked for my group too, is I really wanted to do an inclusive thing and team building thing, but I couldn't get the budget for it. So we decided to do a potluck, and my main activity of that was to book the calendar. So I made the calendar invite, and then we had so many people weighing in that actually it really wasn't a whole lot of effort for me, but we all had something that was really great. We all came together for it. So the act of making the team building event was a team building exercise.
Well, absolutely. And then the team becomes a part of that experience, and it's even better.
Yeah.
So on that note, I want to just go back and recap. So today is day 1 of our 3-day challenge. We are working on really the total shift from your mind to your actions. And you're going to see that over the next 2 days. So today was all about your values, and that's going to be the foundation for where we head over the next 2 days. Tomorrow, we're going to post our video first thing again, and then we're going to be here for you tomorrow evening, 9:30 East Coast time, 6:30 Pacific time. And we would love if you jump on and have any questions or thoughts about what you're experiencing as you're going through the shift. We're here for you. So thank you so much for being a part of this and doing our challenge. And we look forward to talking to you more tomorrow. Justin?
All right. See you guys. Yeah, tomorrow is Task Assassin. I'm really excited. One of my favorites.
Task Assassin. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much.